Hello, everybody. Akamatzu here, back with another thoughts video, this time on Final Fantasy VI, our seventh game in our Final Fantasy marathon. So, going into six is technically the very first Final Fantasy game that I ever played. When I played it, 7 and 8 and 9 were already out, but it just happened to be the first one that I played, and I didn't even get that far in it. I played it for what I can remember, like 50 minutes to an hour, and I didn't like it. So I went on and I played Final Fantasy VIII instead, and I never went back to it. I guess going in, I did know some characters like Kefka. It's kind of hard not to know who Kefka is. And Terra. I knew Terra by name. I didn't really know anything about her. I did see a little bit of her in World of Final Fantasy, but not enough to really remember her. But that's pretty much all I knew about Final Fantasy VI, which is just two characters and not really much about them. So let's jump into my thoughts on it. As always, I usually start off with the good. I like the opera scene. I thought the opera scene in the game was pretty cool. It was very different from anything that 1 through 5 did. It was very cinematic. It had audio attached to the character, which I just did not see coming at all. Her singing was great. Celeste singing was great. It was a nice set piece. It had a lot of meaning to not only her but Locke as well in the story, and it was a nice like cinematic piece that we never really got in any of the early Final Fantasy games. I mean, 5 tried to do some of that, and I guess 4 tried to, but not to this degree. This was like a huge step forward, I would say, and it was very enjoyable. It was a nice addition. I was very shocked by it, and I liked it a lot. And I can see how future Final Fantasy games kind of take this as an example and run with it for future things that go on in like cutscenes and stuff. But it was very surprising to see in a 2D Final Fantasy. These 2D Final Fantasy games have all been surprising. I thought I wouldn't like any of them because they were old, but I ended up liking them all, really. Another thing I thought that was good about Final Fantasy VI was that it has a lot of variety when it comes to gameplay. There is a ton of characters in this game. I mean, a ton of characters, which is going to offer you at least something that you will like. It's kind of one of those, I don't want to say quantity over quality, because that makes it sound bad, but they are giving you a quantity of characters. So, in case there is one particular character you don't like, you might find another one here that you do like. And they give you a lot of different archetypes of characters. There are some similar characters, but it's a wide variety of stuff for you to do and engage with. And I thought that was pretty cool. So the last thing here in the good list that I liked about Final Fantasy VI was the story and the personal character stories. Now I liked Emperor Gestahl. I thought he was great, and I liked the drive that he brought to the story. His overall goal and what he was trying to do in it. I thought it was a nice bad story. Not bad as in terms of bad, but bad guy story, I should say. And I also enjoyed the personal stories with the characters. I liked Terra's, I liked Celeste's, Edgar's. Sabin doesn't have as much of a story, but I guess you could tie his with Edgar. Locke's with Celeste and Locke's personal story. There was a lot of nice stories in this game. Cyan. I almost like the personal stories of the characters more than the main story in a way. But the story and its presentation and how it was done was great. There was a lot of cinematic cutscenes. There was a lot of grimness. I'm a big fan of grimness. And overall, I really enjoyed the presentation and delivery of the story and how they did it. It was a fun ride. Now that's going to do it all for the good. Now I do have a couple things in the neutral. The neutral is stuff that is not necessarily things I hated. That's not in the bad, but not stuff that I thought was overwhelmingly great. Just kind of in the middle. Now I'm going to go back to talking about the cast. While I do think it's great that it offers you a lot of characters to play, for me, a lot of the characters were not that interesting. I know it sounds kind of like you say one thing, do another, but not really. I do think it's great that they offer you a wide variety. I'm just acknowledging that most of them I didn't really enjoy, or maybe half of them. I have some written down here. Going to get the easy one out of the way first. Gao, don't like him at all. Reasons being, I don't like his gameplay. He's like a uncontrollable blue mage, and his story relevance to not only the overarching story, but his own personal story are shallow at best. I know he's like more world building. He has nothing to do with the bad guys at all. Now I know not every hero needs to be and it's unrealistic to expect that. But in a Final Fantasy format, usually the heroes are always wronged by the bad in some degree, and Gao really isn't, unless I missed it. He's just a guy that his dad just threw him out. And even then, that story we get with his dad later in the game, it's not even that big of a deal compared to other side stories we get. Like, compare Gao's side story to Cyan's. They don't even compare. Cyan gets way more screen time. It's made his story is just way more important. And Gal's just kind of treated the way I feel like he is in the game. Not that important and not that relevant. Didn't find him fun. If you erase them from the game, I don't really think the game changes at all. And I, for one, think that's not really a good character when you can do that. Another one that I have on my list, it is a group, and it's going to be with Strago and Realm. I feel like their place in the game is just designated for their jobs as an excuse to just have them there. And what do I mean by that? Well, they come a little bit late into the game, a little bit before the event happens, and they don't really get as much establishment time as other characters. Now, let me go into this a little bit more further. So, Strago is a descendant of the Magi, and the Magi were wrong in the war. And that's about it for Strago. It's never really elaborated any more than that. And for Realm, Realm doesn't really have any reason for doing what she's doing. She's just accompanying Grandpa. And so it comes down to this dynamic for me that you have a blue mage that uses, they say like, oh, he's a descendant of the Magi. They wronged him. That should be meaning enough for him to fight. But they never really use that any further than that. That's it. It's never touched upon again. It's never brought up again. No one references it again for the rest of the story. He's kind of just there. And then Realm just goes with him. And then when both get their own story, Strago's is related to him missing Realm and thinking she's dead. And then Realm just gets this random story where there's this creature inside a painting and it's not related to anything. They don't really seem like they fit amongst the cast. Now let's compare their stories to, say, like Locke, for instance. We meet Locke very early in the game. We see that Locke has abandonment issues. We also see that Locke is part of the resistance. He has two things going on for them. Later in the game, they emphasize the abandonment issue stuff once and then twice. They bring it up enough for you to remember it. We see with Locke being part of the resistance, we see what happens with that. So Locke's meaning as a character is felt almost constantly. Where Strago and Realm join, they have their one moment, and then that's pretty much it. And then they're kind of just there. They're party member 10 and 12. I really wish there were more importance. And that's where I feel in Final Fantasy VI. There just is a blatant imbalance with characters and how relevant they are to the narrative. I guess it is inescapable when you have a roster this big, but eventually some characters just come off as just gameplay pieces, and that's it. And I guess I just personally don't like that. And lastly, I know this one is not going to be well received at all because he's a fan favorite, but I don't like Kefka. I'm sorry. And it has nothing to do with Kefka. I think Kefka, whenever he's on screen, he's great. I don't think Kefka's bad at all, but I don't like Kefka's character type. Kefka to me is the Joker, and I don't like the Joker. He's bad just because he's bad, which is the Joker archetype. They're laughing, chaotic bad guy. I think that character archetype is very boring, and I don't really find it amusing at all. Kefka, while he's on screen and he's great, and I can acknowledge that he's good, it's just not for me. I wish there was more to him. I feel like his backstory is pretty weak with him being a failed experiment from Sid. I wish it was more than that. And I don't enjoy it. Not really. I wish I did. I don't think it's bad. I know I'm going to get flack for it. But that's just how I feel. Sorry. Now, that was just the neutrals. These next ones coming up are the bads. The first thing I didn't like involves Emperor Gastal. The part where he surrenders, I felt was incredibly weird by not only him, but the hero cast. Mainly the hero cast. Why would they believe him at all? They have no reason to believe this guy whatsoever. He has a laundry list of deeds that are evil and bad, yet they give him the benefit of the doubt, which he does not deserve. And what ends up happening, no one's shocked. I felt like this part was incredibly weird and forced. Felt like it went against some character's character, just believing him. I didn't like this part at all. And then lastly, I complained about this in 4, and I'm complaining about it again. I like Shadow as a character. I think he's great, but I don't like how they treat him in this game. Now, there's a lot of characters in this game, and that means that you got to spend a lot of money on equipping those characters because they separate them in teams, which makes a lot of the characters more useful. But Shadow is a character that comes and goes, and I never prioritized him because I never knew when he was going to come back. So when he did join the team, he was always a liability because I never had him geared, because I never had any money, because I already spent it on the other characters. So every single time he came into the party, he was a liability and he was a hamper to the team. I don't like this. I don't know how they can do it better, and I hate to complain about it and not offer a solution, but I never liked it. There was a point where I got a lot of money and then I just bought a crap ton of stuff for him. And then when he showed up again the next time, it was no problem. But the first 2 or 3 times that happened, it sucked. It was not enjoyable. And it reminded me of the temporary characters in 4 that I had this same complaint about. I didn't know if they were going to stay or when they were going to leave. So I didn't know when to prioritize them. And it was the same ish in 6 with Shadow. I never knew when he was going to come. So I spent my money on people who were already there, which I feel is a much more sturdy strategy. I can't say I like that. But again, I liked him as a character. I enjoyed him, but I don't like the way that he is portrayed. But I can appreciate it being different at the same time. And that is going to do it with my thoughts video for Final Fantasy VI. Go ahead and demonize me in the comments. I know this is a fan favorite, and I just talked a lot of bad about it, I guess. I didn't enjoy this game as much as I wanted to. I don't really know why. I can acknowledge its strengths and I can see why everyone likes it. I want to think another reason why I don't like it is people talked so highly of it for so long that my expectations of it were like super high and unattainable. I want to think that's one of the reasons, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I would like to. And I know that's probably hard to hear because I know there's a lot of fans out here that love this game, but I just don't think it's a FF for me. Well, that's going to be it for my thoughts video. Did we happen to agree or disagree on my points here about Final Fantasy VI? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like. If you'd like to share it with people, hey, that'd be great. Also, if you'd like to join us on our Final Fantasy Marathon adventure, I'm streaming it over on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Akamatzu. I stream every day at 2 a.m. If you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Stay crunchy, amigos.